Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. Also podcast, and you can listen to previous episodes on talklawradio.com. Find out all those hidden legal issue blind spots that might be affecting you. Today we're talking to Barbara Lambert, Sharyl Mays, and me. We're discussing the signs that a senior might need a little extra help. And we talked before the break about a stroke, and now we're going to ask Barbara about another diagnosis that might lead somebody to get extra help for their senior.
Sure. So the following four diagnoses all have one thing in common with stroke. So the four other diagnoses that make it difficult to stay in the home are Parkinson's, COPD, a diagnosis of Alzheimer's and or dementia, or a diagnosis of diabetes. And so what a lot of people don't realize is that all of these five can easily have an underlying diagnosis of dementia that crops into the picture as well. And dementia can, if paperwork isn't done, decisions aren't made ahead of time, can cause a whole host of problems, can't they?
They can.
Yeah, so what's your experience, Sharyl?
So this one's personal to me. My aunt, about age 55, started having some issues, and it started off as a tremor. And so she went and saw her neurologist, and they treated her for what they thought was Parkinson's. And we were a couple years into that process when we started realizing there was other symptoms going along with it, and becoming much more apparent. And so we went on and come to find out she did have early onset Alzheimer's. And so Parkinson's is just can have symptoms of Parkinson's, but nobody wants to give that diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's. So that's really the neurologist's last resort. So we have to be an advocate for even those that do have a clear case of Parkinson's or stroke or COPD and depression. Depression has a huge connection with dementia, and we can see that with people suffering from the sunset disease, where they're sleeping all day and awake all night. That goes hand in hand with people that suffer from depression on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, this hit me early when I first met Barbara. I had a friend named Donald, and he was having some trouble, and he needed some a little extra help. So let me tell you a little bit about him. He was sort of a grouchy, grumpy guy at times. He had his mood swings. He was set in his ways like an old fence post. His wife left him, his kids were estranged, and his dogs ran away. But he was a military man, and he was very proud of that. He served during World War II, and after fighting that war, came home and worked civil service for the government. After I met him, he started to need more and more help. First, it was a caregiver at home. Then it was a residential care home, and then finally his diseases caught up with him, and he had to have 24/7 care in a nursing home. And Barbara was the one that helped him find the care that he needed, helped him find the caregivers, helped him find a residential care home, helped him find a nursing home that it would accept him despite his bad behavior. And what was remarkable to me was Barbara's care and compassion for someone as ornery as Donald, but it really showed how skilled she was. I mean, not just your care and compassion, but you have to have the tools to deal with that. Absolutely. And to advocate for him so that he got the care that he needed. And so Barbara's research, her connections with decision makers in the elder care industry, and advocacy for his well-being was unmatched.
Thank you.
So when elder care becomes an issue with my friends and family, I call Barbara Lambert with Home to Home for Seniors.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah. So that was Parkinson's, and we mentioned Alzheimer's and dementia being associated with that. Let's go back to some of the signs that are readily observable. So pretend you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you walk in and you haven't seen your aunt for a period of time. What are some things that would make you suspicious that she wasn't doing well?
Well, just things that they have done all their lives that they just suddenly can't remember how to do. Anything or an event that happened, a birthday party that was a big ordeal, an anniversary for parents that they just have no recollection of, and they can't contribute to the conversations that's going on at the table. If they're struggling for their words, that's a huge indicator that something else is going on. They may come across that they're tongue-tied, but it's their inability to formulate the needed words to move forward in the conversation. And then that just builds on to their anxiety that they're already suffering from, and it can just break down everything from there.
Do you ever get calls like on Thanksgiving and the day after?
I do. In fact, I can remember one call on Thanksgiving Day. And this gentleman was living at home alone. He was living at home with a partner, and his partner was caring for him, and he was a quadriplegic. And on Thanksgiving Day, his partner dropped dead of a heart attack.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, wow.
And so this wasn't anybody that we could easily find care for. And so I knew of a care home that I thought she can do it. She would be able to do it. And so I called her on Thanksgiving Day. She was in the movies. So we were texting back and forth while she was in the movies. And then arranging transportation for him because he needed to have a wheelchair van or something that would be able to transport him. And so I think it was by 8 o'clock Thanksgiving night we had him all situated in his new home. But what a traumatic event that Thanksgiving was for that family. A routine, totally upset, the loss of a partner, and now leaving his home. He owned his home. He was leaving his home. That was the last day he was able to see his home. I
Wow.
mean, nobody thought that Thanksgiving, I'm sure he didn't, that would be the last time he would be in that home.
Yeah, that's another example of why you have to have your affairs in order, because if you have a heart attack and the Lord calls you home right then you don't have an opportunity to say, hey, I'm dying, I need to go get my will.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so Barbara, what are some other signs that a senior needs help?
So the forgetfulness, if you show up for Thanksgiving dinner and they forget you're even coming, they forget it was Thanksgiving, they don't remember your name, those are some signs. If they become very confrontational at the dinner, you're sitting down and all of a sudden they're very confrontational with everyone, or everything is agitating them, signs that something...
And if that's different than their normal behavior.
Right. If
Oh,
that's different.
absolutely. Dementia can flip a person's personality 180 degrees. A person that was kind and generous can go to angry and paranoid and violent quickly.
Paranoia, right. And the... what was I going to say?
Well, I've seen some paranoia in older people that because of their confusion, it just comes out as paranoia. They're trying to figure things out too, because they don't necessarily know what's going on in their own mind.
Right. So with dementia, it's not uncommon for them to think that family members or people close to them are stealing money, or that a spouse is cheating, having an affair, and when it's the furthest thing that can be from happening. Unopened mail stacked up around is another sign. Bills not being paid on time is another sign. You go to Thanksgiving dinner and there's no power. That's a
That
sign
would be a big one, a big obvious
yeah,
one.
you'd be relocating Thanksgiving dinner. And hiding money and losing money. are giving all their money away. You see loads from Amazon and the shopping network, especially the shopping network channels, loads of things coming because they're just buying. They're not opening them. Or you go into the kitchen and they were going to make green bean casserole, and now there's 32 cans of green beans on the shelf because they keep buying them because they forget that they have them.
I think all of us have had a hoarding situation because it's a sign of an underlying condition. There's lots of underlying conditions that lead to hoarding, at least from what I've seen on the TV show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
older people sort of have that tendency as well sometimes.
It's just so important when you notice these changes that are different and not normal for this person, that you do something. You investigate further, you have a conversation. Don't ignore them. It could be the sign that something underlying is starting to happen.
So I wanted to offer the listeners a free checklist to find out if your loved one is needing a guardian. If you email me at host@talklawradio.com, just mention the checklist for guardianship, I'll email you a self-assessment that you can take to sort of point out some of these issues. So email me at host@talklawradio.com and I'll email that checklist to you. We're going to come back. I want to talk more about hoarding because there are some strategies for dealing with that too. Stay tuned.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law Radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.